I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector News Podcast. And I have joining me the president and director of Bravada Gold, Joe Kizis.
Oh, thank you, Michael. Appreciate being here.
Thank you for joining me. Now, not all of our listeners are familiar with Bravada Gold, so I generally like to start these conversations off with a quick overview of the company, what you do, why you do it, and that sort of thing.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Bravada is a company that I got involved with, the Junior Explorer, quite a few years ago now. And the premise at the time was that Nevada is a great place to find gold and silver projects. And, we've been doing that now for about 20 years. And the idea is that even though there have been a lot of discoveries, there's a lot of discoveries that are continuing to be found in Nevada, and these are significant deposits. The Anglo Gold discovery in Beatty is now looking like it's going to be well over 10 million ounces of gold. So, we look at not only at the project or at the location in Nevada, but also the types of deposits. And there's two types of deposits that we really focus on. One is the Carlin type, which Nevada is famous for. The other are low sulfidation and intermediate sulfidation epithermal systems. And those are really exciting to us now because there's been a lot of research on those over the last 20 years. And most of these are barren at the surface. In other words, a lot of these discoveries now are being discovered in places where the surface values of gold are virtually nil. So you have to use a bit of science involved in this. And, we've been doing that for quite a while. We take an approach that's, sort of a statistical approach. There are a lot of unknowns when we take on a project. And, we try to minimize the risks in part by finding partners where possible and advancing the projects with our own drilling. And the idea is that mining companies now are really focused on mining and production. And the major discoveries are a lot of times found, at least in the early stages, by juniors like ours. So we use more science, a little more risk. We accept a little bit more risk in our exploration projects. You look at the Lassonde curve, there's sort of a period of uptick in value during the exploration phase. And then once the transition into a mining project, it's really a different mindset, mining and exploration. So, that drop in the curve before going up again if you're successful and going extinct if you're not. We focus on that first part of the curve, the exploration discovery and the value that's added to the company during that phase.
Now, you guys have multiple projects in Nevada, and you've had a pretty good start to the year and lots of activity happening. Let's talk about your Wind Mountain. I'm guessing it's pretty safe to refer to that as being your flagship property. And there is some interesting work that was done that looks like it's going to extend the proposed life of mine for that project.
Yeah, exactly. This is a case where we've taken the project from no resource into a significant resource. There's a lot of gold that we've identified. The latest PEA that we did was very positive. It looked at a 4-year mine life for a specific area that we could put a heap leach pad. We're somewhat limited there because of geography. There's a power line that kind of limits where we can put the heap leach pad. So for that limited pad, we take a portion of the resource, and it's pretty profitable little mine. It'd be 38% internal rate of return. And, that's at $1,750 gold and $21 silver. That's the 3-year trailing average, which is, sort of what we typically use to produce a model open pit. That doesn't take all the resource at that price. And so we found a second pad site. We've identified that we can take the rest of that pad. We haven't done the PEA for it, so I can't really give you the specifics, but it doesn't look like it drops the internal rate of return. And we have some target areas where we think that we can find some additional resources. It's been not as well drilled as where the main resource is, so it would require some additional drill testing to put together an actual resource for that area. But the advantage is that it's just uphill from the pad 2 drill site, so you don't need to find a lot of really high grade material because you're just rolling it down the hill. Because it is at surface or near surface, and it is completely oxidized in that area, that is very, very cheap to process. So we think we can increase the the size of the deposit, and we've got enough material in the pit indicated resource for about 6 years right now, 50,000 ounces, and we think we can add several more years with the additional exploration. So it's a nice little mining operation, and we're on the hunt for a junior mining partner, somebody that's happy with 50,000 ounces a year production, and try to both increase the timing on that those later years, and get it into production quickly.
And speaking of finding partners, on your Baxter property, also in Nevada, you've brought in Endeavour Silver as a joint venture on that.
Yeah, that's a good example of finding the right partner. They purchased the adjoining property is called the Bruner District. There's about 400 and some odd thousand ounces that historically has been been quoted in resources of that area, and they paid a significant amount of money for it. It's really it comes up to our southern boundary. We had the property, our Baxter project, partnered with Kinross several years ago, and they discovered in one of the targets that we had identified and just did some preliminary drilling, a little resource. Well, I'll use the word loosely here, but it's some mineralization that was outlined, very shallow, decent grade. It's it's probably not huge, so this hasn't been a high priority project for us, but it should be something that would add significant value to the adjacent Bruner project. So we did a deal with Endeavour Silver, whereby they earn in over several years. We picked a number that makes sense because at that amount of drilling, the mineralization on our center target should be outlined in total. Should have some metallurgy, basically ready to go into a pre-feasibility. And with a nearby heap leach operation at Bruner, which would be the target for Endeavour Silver, that could be a very, very attractive deal for all of us. Basically, they would put in the entirety of the capital costs, so there's no risk for us until they're in production. We pay out a portion of our earnings to repay that. So it's a good deal for everyone. I think it adds to the property that Endeavour has adjacent to us, and it allows us pretty much a risk-free ride to production.
Those are always good deals. They're non-dilutive. They're good for the shareholders. They're good for the company. And when you find the right partner, they're going to gain a benefit from it as well. And that's the real goal of a junior company these days, is it not?
It is, for sure. Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Now you've got a lot of planned activity coming up on your Highland property. Let's jump over to that property. What's it like, and what's in the plans?
Yeah, well, it's a larger property position than Baxter, but it's very, very close. It's about 4 or 5 kilometers to the east. We've done some drilling there. There's some very, very good grades. In a lot of the area, though, is covered by gravel. So there's quite a bit of work that we've done in identifying targets, and we have a pretty aggressive drilling program for an area that really has had no recent drilling other than one portion of it, and it's identified what we think is one of the major vein systems. We've not seen any drilling at depth test that. But very good gold grades, and because it's so close to Baxter and Bruner, any kind of a discovery there would have the value of kind of the ability to potentially put together a whole district play with a number of projects producing. So it's becomes a lot more valuable to some of the surrounding people. In this case, this would be Endeavor, right? They'd be an obvious potential partner for us on that project.
How many drill holes are planned for this program?
Yeah, well, we're looking at potentially 15 different holes. So, a lot of it depends on the drilling costs and that sort of thing. They've gone up a bit, but that's sort of the initial target, is to get a number of targets or a number of drill holes on two of the highest priority targets at this point. One of those we have had some shallow drilling and had some encouragement, but we've not gone deep enough to test the system. A lot of these low sulfidation systems like Highland, like Baxter, have basically no gold values at surface, but there's a little leakage here and there. We've got surface grab samples, select samples that are up to 15 grams at Highland. So that we consider as leakage and evidence that the gold system or the gold fluids had the juice, had the gold within them. We just need to find an area where it's been concentrated. So that's what this next round of drilling is designed to show. And we have certain geologic features that we look for, certain textures, certain geochemistry, and we've got two really good targets on Highland right now, and so that's where we'll be drilling our holes at this point. So yeah, we're excited about doing that. We're hoping we have our permit, and we are in the process of raising money to conduct that program. And we have a drilling contractor prepared in September, October timeframe.
I see. Now, you mentioned earlier that these deposits tend to be a little bit deeper and not necessarily found at surface. How deep does the drill program have to go before they're going to hit grade?
Yeah, well, you kind of figure where the top of the original system was, you need to be below 150 meters. So yeah, when we see there are certain textures and certain rocks that we see at the paleo surface, and you can see those forming today. If you go to Yellowstone, basically, there's a gold deposit for sure forming at some depth underneath that. That's nobody's drilled there because it's all hot water, right? But the evidence is that there would be a high grade gold system under that. Well, we have some of those features at Highland, and so we know where the paleo surface was back when, maybe 10, 15 years ago or a million years ago when this deposit was forming. There was a hot spring system just like what you see at Yellowstone. So you need to be about 150 meters beneath that level. So that's one of the things that we've done on Highland in specific, and well, also in Baxter. And we know where that 150, where that paleo surface is. So we need to drill underneath that 150 meter level. So the holes will be somewhere in the 600 feet, 200 meters to 350 meters depth.
Okay. So if people want to learn more about the company and the open placement that's going to help fund this project, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can contact Jay Onis, and we can send an email to me. I can pass that on to Jay Onis, and my email is jkizis@renobravada.com.
We'll provide links to your email and to the company in the description of this particular podcast. Joe, it's a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing the drill results that are going to come out later this fall on this program. It sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, we're excited about it, and I think it'll be a very good program this year. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it. I appreciate your time, Michael.
Thank you, Joe. Bravada Gold is a paid sponsor of the Prospector News. The host owns shares and warrants bought at the market for investment purposes. The Prospector News podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.